Delivering your message. What are the 3 different channels a person can communicate through? Well, simply enough, they're body language, voice tone, and words. But what percentage impact does each element have on the overall message that a person receives and interprets? Well, 55% of the impact of your communication comes from the body language that you're using. 38% comes from the tone of voice, and 7% of the impact comes from the words. Now, often people find this very surprising, that words don't seem as impactful as body language and voice tone. Rather than thinking about it as in terms of how much of your message is comprised of words, think of it more like this. If I say the protons and neutrons are at the center of the atom, the words are the words. They make up the bulk of the detail of the message. But notice what happens when I change my tone of voice to the meaning behind my words. The protons and neutrons are at the center of the atom. So although the words stayed the same, by changing my tone of voice, my whole message changed from a statement to a question. And along with my tone of voice, my body language would have been different. My body language would have made me look unsure, like I was asking, I wasn't really sure about, I wasn't confident about the information. So very simply put, your voice tone and body language has a huge impact on the message that's actually received. And the words are ultimately the detail within that, but they don't convey emotion. They don't convey confidence the same way that voice tone and body language do. Now, what that means is that 93% of what we're actually communicating is through the non-verbal channels. Now, obviously, if you've just written a letter, then you could say that words comprise the entire part of the message. But even then, people, when they read words on a text, words in an email, they add the tone in their head. And often that's coming from their perception of what they think you are like and how you normally talk and what you think about them. So if they're reading a text from you or reading an email from you, they're adding your tone of voice and your emotion to that. So the words aren't necessarily just the words, although when we analyze the words used in communication, they do often give us a lot of information about what that person is obviously thinking and trying to presuppose in that communication. So the words do contain a lot of information, but the effect and the impact is massively affected by the tone of voice, the feelings, and the emotions. So when the body language and the voice tone and the words all match up, it's called congruence. And that's really something to focus on whenever you're communicating, that your message is congruent. If it's incongruent, people will more likely defer to your body language to know what it is you're really saying. Now, for that reason, the most important thing that you could do for your communication is to believe what you're saying and have unconditional positive regard for the person or people you're saying it to, because that will ensure that you have the maximum rapport and credibility and that the message gets across the way you intended it to. Any anxiety or nervousness can easily be mistaken for uncertainty about what you're saying and not about your uncertainty about the situation. So you'll need to ensure you get yourself in the most resourceful physiological state, most appropriate physiological state before communicating. Your tone of voice and your body language absolutely need to back up what you're saying. Now, if you're studying presentation or speaker skills with me, then you'll have the opportunity to practice confidence, charisma, and other platform skills, including how to stand, how to use your body and your voice effectively, and including any techniques to banish nerves and anxiety about presenting. You may even fall in love with presenting, which is always my outcome when teaching presentation and speaker skills.